But then we get into a bigger discussion now, because we say, what about Dajjal? Because we have decisive evidence from the Sunnah that Dajjal is going to come, is going to split this one, is going to do that one, is going to reign. It's going to reign because of him. And, by the way, listen to this. He's going to claim prophethood before he claims to be God. So you've got all the conditions that most of the mutakallimin say are applicable to a prophet being applied in Dajjal. How would you respond to that? Go on.
Would you not say that there's no prophet after Prophet? So that's like impossible anyways to happen.
You see, that's they're making a textual argument. But if we're saying, let's take it aqli.
If we're saying that we've accepted the Prophet was a legitimate prophet,
yeah.
He said there's no prophet after me.
No, but we'll say, they'll make ta'wil of these things.
So this the qaid in the definition.
They wouldn't even make the argument that way.
At the hands of the Prophet, they say this is impossible to happen after Prophet.
Yeah, but the Dajjal, we have clear text that is happening with him.
Yeah, I get that, but as in there's already something previously which says that. Like that definition is only applying to things that happened before.
There's more than that. So you can say what you just said.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, well, la nabiyya ba'di. The Prophet ﷺ said, there's no prophet after me. And you can also say that the Prophet ﷺ said that the believers will see on Dajjal's head kafara, that is disbeliever, and that there will be evidences on the opposite direction. You know what I mean? You can make these arguments. But then this would go into a different school of thought, namely Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim's, which is the following. He says that's not the case, that the decisive evidence, and he mentions this in Kitab al-Nubuwat, and also Sharh Aqid al-Isfahaniyya, which, by the way, the Sapiens Institute is translating, right? The only organization to first translate in English language. It's not going to be. But anyway, this Sharh Aqid al-Isfahaniyya makes the following point. He says that, look, actually prophethood is a cumulative case. And the mu'jiza is part of the package. It's not the decisive part. It's not the only thing of the package. So in other words, the evidence or the miracle is only a part of the case of prophethood. It's not the only thing. And so you can even affirm, even for the sake of argument, you can affirm a miracle to someone other than a prophet, but it wouldn't negate, that wouldn't be enough for prophethood. So for example, let's say David Blaine comes in and he says, follow me, and he split the sea and walks on the water and all that kind of stuff. What is he calling to? Is he calling to a tawheed? What is his track record? So Ibn Taymiyyah is saying this. Ibn Taymiyyah is saying that all the things that you would use, he effectively says this, all the things that you would use to assess the truth and the falsehood of anybody else in your life, you can use it with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and you would have favorable results. So he says on probability, when you look at the seerah of the Prophet, you look at what he's calling to a tawheed, you look at the akhlaqiyat, the morals of what the Prophet ﷺ is calling to, and you look at all these things in combination and the miracles, all of that is the case for Islam. Unless someone brings all of that together, then they won't be bringing what the Prophet ﷺ brought. Yeah.
Would you say all of them combined is also a miracle?
So the thing is, so remember, the miracle here has a very strict terminological definition according to the Kalam scholars, which is that it's a thing which, as we mentioned, خارقة للعادة, something which negates the laws of nature. يجريها الله سبحانه وتعالى على يده مدعي النبوة على وجه التحدي. That Allah, He makes happen on the hands of someone who is مدعي النبوة على وجه التحدي, that someone who claims to be a prophet and he challenges the world with it. From that perspective, we have to be clear what is and what isn't a miracle. Like for example, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. Okay. Now, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj on this strict definition wouldn't qualify as a miracle. Why? Because I didn't see that. Like I didn't see the Prophet ﷺ going from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa and going up to the sky. I didn't see that. So it doesn't act as an evidence for me. There's no tahaddi. How can there be tahaddi when I can't see it? How could it challenge everybody else? There's no aspect of falsification or challenge. Obviously, you could argue what happened afterwards with the Prophet ﷺ, for example, when he was asked to see, he said, like, I saw this and I saw that. That could be claimed to be an evidence or an ayah or a miracle. The point is that the Quran doesn't use this term, mu'jiza. The Quran uses the term ayah. Ibn Hazm makes this point as well. The ayah means a dalil. Effectively, that's what it means, which means evidence, a sign, an evidence. That's what the Quran uses a more neutral term, actually, because mu'jiza is the loaded language. Miracle is loaded language. What do we mean by it? So we have to break it down. This is what we're not negating the miracle, but we're just saying the word miracle has loaded term. If you're speaking to an atheist and you say, well, I believe in miracles and that's why I'm a Muslim, that's a weaker case to make than to say, well, we have evidence, a cumulative case, a probabilistic reasoning, which indicates why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a prophet. Because by saying miracle, you need to first define what you mean by a miracle. And then you need to advance in kind. And by the way, like for example, and I was just talking to Sabor about this, interestingly, yeah? If you say something which goes against the laws of nature, this effectively is problematic. Why? Because there's no law, there's no scientific law of physics that stops. And you're here. Just I saw him, the physics expert. Just you can tell me if I'm wrong. You were here when we were talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's no law of physics which effectively goes against the idea of a miracle. Like, how do we? And please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. How do we collect the laws of physics? We look at past patterns of nature, how nature has acted in a certain way, and then we say this is a law. So there's instantiations of a particular physical process that happen over a space of time, and we collect this historical data and we call it a law. That's effectively it. That's how we know what a law is. A law is not. It doesn't have a substratum. It doesn't stand in space where you can put it under a microscope. A law is effectively just patterns of nature. Now, what I'm saying is, there's no law that says a miracle, like for example, the splitting of the sea or the splitting of the moon or whatever it may be, that it can't happen. It's just that we're saying we have no such law to show that it can happen. So it's more of a positive argument than a negative one. So if you want to be more specific about the mutakallimun, when they say a miracle is khariqa lil-'ada, something which didn't happen before, there's an issue here with what do you mean by 'ada? Can there be something else? 'Ada means a pattern, effectively, a natural law. But can there be something new which creates a new 'ada, which creates a new natural law? And that wouldn't even contradict the scientific method. So what I'm trying to propose is that to use the terms cumulative case and probabilistic reasoning and evidence is more neutral, and you can make an argument in a stronger way than to use the word miracle, which is more loaded. And especially when you go and speak about, because the word miracle effectively depends on the laws of nature, physics or otherwise. It depends on it. For you to know what a miracle is, and this is, by the way, David Hume as well. David Hume accepts this point. For you to know what a miracle is, you need to know what science is. You need to know how science operates. So you can say that this goes against science, or this goes against the established laws, or this is something which not goes against it. This is something which is not explained through it. And then you have abiogenesis, which we discussed as well. I mentioned this with Edward Tabash, one of my interlocutors, and if you remember, I don't know if you remember. Yeah, so this might have gone under the radar, but he said to me, miracles, and he was attacking Islam and the religion through the idea of miracles. I said, how did chemistry become biology? And he said, abiogenesis. But abiogenesis is the idea that chemistry became biology, right? That you have dead stuff and it became living stuff, effectively. How did that happen? So if you research abiogenesis, it's a process which is not being confirmed or seen, which is effectively, and they have all these theories, sometimes like alien came in and this one, that one, and that's how it came, no, honestly. Because Panspermia, yeah, this one, basically, effectively, is alien theory. Yeah, this one, and the soup, and this and that. That's what they call it. I don't know what they call it, the exact, what do you call it?
I'm not biology.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Not biology. But do you know what I mean? They have all these stuff. So what I'm saying is, that how did that happen? Whatever way you propose is not in line with what we've seen in terms of naturalistic phenomena. In many ways, abiogenesis is a miracle. It fulfills, like abiogenesis fulfills the criterion definition of what a miracle is. And it had to have happened, because without abiogenesis, you don't have life. So when we say Adam was created from dust, and they say this is, I don't believe in miracles. I say, look, you believe in abiogenesis. So فَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, or I blew into him from my spirit. And Allah says that that's how it happened with Adam, for example. So I don't believe in this stuff. Why? Because it's a miracle. But you believe in abiogenesis. So long as I speak in scientific words, you're okay with it. So are you okay with it? It fulfills the same criterion of what a miracle is. So the point is that I think that if you use a cumulative case argument, it's stronger. We're now on biblical criteria, yeah? The Bible even tells you something about this. And it says that You may say to yourselves, how can we know when a message has not been spoken by the Lord? If what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that the message of the Lord has not spoken, the prophet has spoken presumptuously, so do not be alarmed. The Bible seems to indicate that one of the ways to see if a prophet is a true prophet is through predictions and prophecies of the future, which is a very powerful point, because as you know, we have arguments of prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which if you're speaking to a Christian is very important as well. Now what Ibn Taymiyyah says is very interesting. He says that someone who claims prophethood, and this we're going into more of a different kind of discussion, and this is not just him, Ibn Abdul Barr says the same thing. This phrase is used by a lot of people, which is the following phrase. He says that no one claims to be a prophet except for أصدق الصادقين or أكذب الكاذبين, the most truthful person or the most lying person. This is what he says. It happened, yeah. It happened. Yes, for Ghulam Ahmad and these ones and that one. You can see from their lives, like you can discern the truth from the falsehood very easily. Just on the point of prophethood, like for example, we spoke about like some of the prophecies of Ghulam Ahmad, the so-called Indian prophet, and you know he dying on the toilet. I don't know if he died on the toilet or not, but that's not the issue.
The prophet, the lady, it's called.
Yeah, the lady.
The lady, she claimed the prophecy.
Oh yeah, but just on the point of, I was making a point of what's his name, of Ghulam Ahmad, and he said, I'm going to marry Muhammadi Begum, a particular woman, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he never married her. If I don't marry her, I'm not a prophet, and he didn't marry her. Khalas, finished. It's you've just disproven. Thank you for saying this. He loved her so much because the emotions got the best of him. You see, so because you know he thought that if he probably believed in manifestation. If I say it, it'll happen.
To the universe.
Yeah, if I say it to the universe, it'll just bring it. So this is according to biblical criterion. This will be complete, you know, a failure, and it's true. Anyway, the point is that look at this verse. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا وقال أوحي إلي ولم يوحى إلي شيء. Imagine, I'm going to move on to a point here, but the ayah of the Quran is as follows, yeah? And who is more unjust than the one who invents a lie about Allah and says, it has been inspired to me, while nothing has been inspired to him. So what the Quran is saying is this: who's worse? There's nobody worse. Who's worse than the one who says, who lies about Allah. There's no one worse than someone who lies about Allah and says, it has been inspired to me. That revelation has been inspired to me. And no revelation has been inspired to him. There's no one worse than that. So it's the Prophet ﷺ, and I'll tell you why this is psychologically, it shows you the truthfulness of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, right? Because if you think about it, there is something called cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is a well-known psychological thing, which this guy called Festinger, I think this was one of the first studies that has ever been done on it, in 1956. There's a few studies that were done on it, and he done studies on people, funny enough, who believed in prophecies that were going to happen, like, you know, these cults in America, and that they didn't happen. So he wanted to see what kind of behavior that they exhibited. And what is cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is when you have either contradictory beliefs, or B, either contradictory belief and action. That's really what cognitive dissonance is. So I have two contradictory beliefs that I believe in. So for example, let's say someone's a Christian and he's a flat earthist, and let's say he's a young age creationist. Yeah? He believes the universe is 6,000. The young age creationist, 6,000 years. He believes the universe is 6,000 years. But he's a physicist. So when he goes into the physics room, he has to say the universe is 14 billion years. But when he goes into the church, he has to say the universe is 6,000 years old. Now, these are two contradictory beliefs. According to cognitive dissonance theory, this person will be showing a lot of discomfort in his life. He will be trying to resolve that contradiction because it's causing him a lot of pain. Having two contradictory beliefs causes pain, psychological pain, trauma, problems, agitation, and especially it could even cause you guilt. And they have like these studies about meat eating for some reason, but also smoking. Someone who believes that smoking is bad but does it anyway, for example. So when you believe in something and do the opposite, it causes this. And by the way, interestingly, one kind of cognitive dissonance, if you think about it from a spiritual perspective, is sin. You know, as Muslims, when we sin, we feel guilty. because it's haram. Like, for example, you look at a woman, everyone is a man. You look at a woman, you shouldn't look at her. If you don't have it, then. But if you've done something very bad, do you feel very guilty and shame? Because your belief is that this is haram and wrong, immoral. But your action is that you're doing this thing, so it causes discomfort. So one of the problems of sin is not just that it causes you a spiritual blemish, but it causes you psychological trauma and pain. The more sinless you are, the more psychologically healthy you are. Someone wants to ask a question.